After the election, we talked to Hastings and Rye's independent parliamentary candidate Nicholas Wilson, and we also have another exclusive interview with Prime Minister Theresa May. You decide which one's real and which one's a puppet. But first, Mr. Ethical. Good morning, Nicholas.
Morning, Angel.
So what made you decide to stand in the election?
Pure frustration, really. In January this year, HSBC have agreed to repay £4 million as a result of a fraud which I've been working on for years and years and years. But the true figure should be £80 to £100 million. So they are sitting on information which anybody can see, which proves that these charges amount to something like 80 to £100 million. The regulators are gagged somehow. The media are gagging me. And I thought, well, if you can't beat them, join them. I thought if I could become an MP, maybe I won't be ignored so much.
You've got a lot of support now, but equally after the election, you had quite a lot of people approaching you and criticising you due to the very tight vote that there was in Hastings and Rye. Can you put people's minds at rest as to why your approach is not to detract from Labour's success?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I went into this, my campaign issue was corruption. It is non-partisan because corruption affects all the parties and affects every strata of society. So it's only that reason. As I say, I'm not that interested in the tactics and the procedures and so on, but pundits are saying I've prevented Amber Rudd from becoming Prime Minister. So, if I can shine a spotlight on MPs, for example, MPs that are legislating to privatise the NHS who have, connections with private healthcare companies. That kind of corruption needs to be exposed and eliminated.
Do you think there's hope now in this country that we can make an inroad into this awful situation where our lives are being run by corporate entities dressed up as politicians?
Well, it's very difficult because I know I'm gagged by the media. HSBC advertise in newspapers and on TV. They don't have to advertise. They're not interested in current account customers. That's not where their profits come from. £400 million a year in advertising. And it's to keep the media quiet.
And don't forget, you can see the full interview with Nicholas Wilson on Amazon News Media. Now, our Prime Minister, Mrs. Theresa May. Hello, Prime Minister, and welcome back. This election has been an unmitigated disaster for you, hasn't it? Not at all. We've increased our share of the vote, which is wonderful. But how can you say that when the whole country has witnessed a truly massive surge of votes? Details. I still got the most votes. I still won. Right. So whose fault is it that the media has now deserted you except for open ridicule? Well, if more people had voted for us, that wouldn't be happening, would it? Are you, as the press says, a dead woman walking in a zombie Tory party? No. What an absurd notion. The zombie party. Raffle. And is it true that Boris Johnson is coming for you? Please don't imagine for a moment that Boris Johnson is getting on top of me. Michael Howard now says that the size of your majority doesn't matter for Brexit negotiation. That's right. I got more votes. Yet your entire campaign was run on the fact that you needed a strong majority for Brexit. Who lied? Well, my advisors Nick and Fiona. So you're not a zombie Prime Minister and you're not resigning. No. Nick and Fiona are. You went from an overall majority to a hung parliament and you really didn't see that coming? Nobody in politics or in the media who's out of touch with what the people actually think or want could have foreseen this. Well, Nick and Fiona should have, but they had no brains. And all at the cost of, around £130 million of taxpayers' money? That much? Well, I think it was worth it, don't you? You clearly said during your campaign that if you lost just 6 seats, Jeremy Corbyn would be negotiating Brexit. He says he's ready. Well, people say a lot of things, don't they? Especially at election time. I've still got my mandate, to be sure. Bye-bye, NHS. Bye-bye human rights. You lost 13 seats. That's hardly a mandate, is it? Well, I've still got a paramilitary majority. Don't you mean parliamentary? No, I didn't get one of those. But you lost seats in unassailable strongholds like Kensington. Snobbery. And Battersea. Inverted snobbery. Amber Rudd barely won the Battle of Hastings. Thank God for the vote-splitting independent. Don't you just love democracy? In fact, you lost your seats in most of the constituencies that you visited during the campaign. Therefore, correlation doesn't equal causation. And you think the way forward is to join forces with the Democratic Unionist Party of Northern Ireland? Look, they've got democratic in the title. And what can you possibly have in common with them? Every other party in the UK hates our guts. That's a good point. But if you need the votes, then they'll be able to exert leverage. The confidence and supply agreement we're working on means that none of their MPs will join my government. It'll be like they weren't even there. You see, nothing has changed, and I'm still a feminist. Don't worry. Right, well, let's look at some of their views, like, for example, their stance on LGBT, which is a little bit like the Taliban's. Ruth Davison is screeching about it, but people forget that the majority of Tory MPs voted against David Cameron's same-sex marriage bill. It only went through at all because of Labour, so thank goodness they're not in charge. Well, what about climate change? The DUP believe that man-made climate change is a hoax. Yes, and we're about to frack the Gower. So again, snap. Okay, well, what about your commitment to women's rights? The DUP are opposed to abortion. What if they want to extend that to the rest of the UK in exchange for their support? People will have to learn to do the opposite of what I'm going to do and pull out. Do we really want creationism taught in our schools? Do we want the removal of evolution from the curriculum? Yes, why not? Science teachers overstretch school budgets. Really, some people are never happy. What about Ireland? See what I mean? Won't this alliance, though, run the risk of destabilising the whole country even further? You still think that's possible? Aren't you destabilising Northern Ireland by showing a preference and jeopardising the Good Friday Agreement even? That's just fear-mongering. And anyway, it's not like we didn't prefer one side over the other before. You see, nothing has changed. So how will you deal with Jeremy Corbyn? I intend to deal with Jeremy Corbyn the same way I've always done. But you won't be able to portray him as a terrorist sympathiser anymore after this, will you? I know, it will be hard to give that up, but a week is a long time in politics. Isn't it? And here you are yourself siding with the DUP, who have connections to terrorist organisations like the UDA. You should know that in Northern Ireland, as much as in the Middle East, you're only a terrorist sympathiser if we can't benefit from an alliance with you. So are there any major conflict zones that you're not actively igniting? We just need a little more time, that's all. Mrs. May, thank you very much indeed.
Be high.